Hey guys, this video is intended to prep you for our strat for Mythic Fatescribe. This doesn't replace the other research you should do, like a guide video or a kill video, but this is still important so you can see how we are going to do the fight. You should watch this video in its entirety, as well as the video that I've linked in the description, so you can actually see the strat in action. As a first note here, your damage does not matter in any phase outside of the last phase. Let me repeat, your damage literally does not matter. Move for mechanics immediately, because any damage you squeeze out early, you will lose when I tell you to hold at like 72 and 42% health. We do that hold to get a clean push and to get our cooldowns back, and that hold can last anywhere from 5 to 30 seconds depending on when the next tank ad is spawning. So how this setup is going to go for the fight is we are pretty much going to sit at the entrance of the room for the entire fight. That's up here at the right side where it says raid start position. That's where we're doing our feasts and stuff. The only time you're going to move out of there is when you're dodging stuff, and I will talk about how we do that with each mechanic as we go. Feel free to pause the video at any point to get a clear understanding of how things look before I keep talking. Okay, so let's talk about orbs. We're going to do orbs around the room, dropping a wind rush for each set of them. This is different from how we did it on Tuesday, but we are pretty much going to spread them throughout the room, just dropping them wherever you can get far. You see how there are gaps in between these? That's pretty cool. You literally run to the other side of the room if your mobility allows. Again, your damage doesn't matter. This gives us options for the next set of orbs and will avoid deaths to beams and overlaps. Like, for example, you can see that the second set of orbs, you could just drop them in these spots here and it would be super easy and you never touch the raid. So that is really the idea. These orbs, they do spawn smaller orbs, so the raid should watch out for these coming into the group after each orb set comes out. You should be expecting that. All right, let's talk about beams. So beams, no exception, you move for them immediately. The good news about beams is that if we're wind rushing for orbs, generally speaking, they will overlap with beams and you'll have some movement speed for that. Starting at the entrance of the room actually makes dodging a lot of the patterns quite easy. You do get 3 beams in a row, so remember that whenever you're dodging. And I will now show you a safe area for each of the beam patterns. You can see for this one, the safe area is pretty much this whole segment of the room, this kind of third of it here. So what you can do is you can either run right next to the beam if it's close to you, or what you can do is move to the outside of the room here, and you will be safe there as well. So this is the other beam pattern. Again, if you are close to a beam in the direction that it's coming from, you will be fine, and you can also move again to the outside of the room is always safest, but requires you to run the most. Again, your damage doesn't matter. Run however much you have to. If you do have an orb, and you need to drop it at the same time as this, I very much recommend running as much as you have to know that you're going to be safe from a beam. The worst thing that you can do with an orb is drop it on the group because you didn't want to run very far. You can run to the other side of the room and dodge beams while dropping the orb. The good thing about dropping the orbs in the way that we're going to be doing is that it will leave gaps in several places for you to actually move wherever you need to with the orb to also not get hit by a beam. That is personal responsibility. You should not die to that. I'm just going to touch on Grim Portent really quickly. So that is going to be your utmost priority. When that comes out, you should generally try to gravitate. I'm going to be this ranged DPSer. You should gravitate towards the center of the room. There's probably going to be a wind rush down from one of the beam orb sets. You should grab some of that wind rush. You don't even need it, honestly. Just look for the big, malevolence-looking black pillar of smoke, which is on screen now. There is an example of that. Just go to the rune immediately. There is no exception. It sucks so hard to die to that. Please don't let it happen. So now it's actually time to talk about the intermission, which is the other half of the fight. How this phase is going to start is that you are going to go to your rune immediately. You will chase it around the room if you have to, but you're going to be at your rune as soon as you can. You're going to stand next to your rune. You're going to wait for my call on 3, 2, 1, go, and then you will stand on it and you will not get off. I was inconsistent on Tuesday with the calls, but you need to wait for my call here. If you do not, someone can die to the beam between the runes and the center of the room. One more note is that the person with the outermost circle needs to wait until the end of the phase to finish so that we have as much time in the intermission as possible. You want that to last as long as possible, again, for our CDs to recover. Now, what you can do, say if you are this range DPS out here, you can bring, and this is where you need to bring it, this circle, you can bring your rune to about here and then just get off. And that's fine. And everyone else is done their runes, and you can just wait. And about 5 or 6 seconds left in the phase, you can just step on to it and finish it up. And that is going to be your up to your discretion. So the middle circle at all times is going to be somebody with an immunity or a strong defensive, likely a melee or a hunter. You just need to dodge orbs and survive. So you're going to have your dancing shoes on there. Let's talk about the ads and how that looks. So you're going to have both tanks up here doing their thing. There's going to be a pillar here next to X. It's not on screen in the raid plan for some reason, but the ads are going to be here, and the tanks are going to have them, and this melee is going to represent what the melee should do. So the ads are going to be right here, and the ads will cast Despair, which is non-interruptible. The melee are going to run back each time Despair is about to end behind the pillar, and then they will come back out, because when you line Despair, you do not take damage. In the case that there's one of those void zones that come around the edge of the platform coming in, what you can do instead is you can actually just run out to the range stack, which will be at Skull. Why are the range stacked out here? Because when you are 25 yards away from these guys, when they finish casting Despair, you just don't take damage. So that's what the ranged are going to do. If you take damage from Despair in this phase, it is your fault. There is one exception to this. If I am this range DPS and I am doing a rune on the outside, I kind of have to drive my rune past these guys. And I can expect to take Despair damage here, so I will have a defensive prepared, or a health stone or something, because I know that I'm going to take extra damage here, and you take a lot of damage during the intermission just as a group. Another note, we are going to be killing the first ad to come in, so kind of how the phase happens is you have one out here, and a tank works on bringing that in, but this guy's already here, so kill him first, because what that can do is it makes it so that you just have one ad casting Despair and they're not offset, so you can just more easily either line it or run away for the melee. Just makes their lives easier to just focus one down. You have time. Last note for this phase, we are not going to be using freedoms as we were using them on Tuesday on a healer. It was just a lot of effort for not much reward, and it was a lot of risk. So I don't want to add that complexity. We're just going to dodge orbs because you're going to be doing that anyways. So just keep your eyes out for orbs. It's another thing, dying to just sucks. So in the last phase of the fight, the objective is just to burn the boss. We're going to lust pretty quickly into the phase. You're going to try to line that up with 3-minute cooldowns, but ultimately the idea is to kill him and not do any of his rune spinning sets before you kill him. You just burn him down. There's going to be a tank ad. Tank's going to run out, and it needs to be slowed because you are just going to ignore it, and you're going to keep hitting him in the face. You just slow the tank ad, and you kill him. That's it. You just make sure you have 3 minutes for this, and you just burn the boss, and he dies. We get to this part, pretty sure it's a kill. You do have to do one set of orbs and beams, I think, but besides that, you just kill him. So the strat is something I've seen several times. A specific kill video in which the group takes him down with this strat is linked in the description. I recommend watching that if you're having a hard time imagining this and exactly how things work. The most important thing to get down is the placement of the orbs in the main phase and just making sure you don't get hit by these beams. And we'll have a wind rush for each one, and that'll be fine. Making sure we get the intermission clean in this first phase, getting the orbs in the right spot, not dying to Grimportent, obviously. That will actually be the sauce here. If we have 3 solid hours on this guy, with all of this in mind, everyone comes prepared, he can very easily die on Thursday. So please come in, do your best, do your research if you're not entirely sure how this is going to look when you come in tonight, and let's kill this guy.